Who would have thought Great Britain bows to pressure from industry and manufacturers and, despite Brexit, retains the European Union CE safety seal? The British government is withdrawing a Brexit announcement again with this. Expanding CE marking across the UK allows companies to focus their time and money on job creation and economic growth. That's what Economic Secretary Kevin Hollinrake told the Guardian newspaper this week. Actually, from the end of 24, the CE symbol should be replaced by a new British security seal called UKCA, UK Conformity Assessed, for products sold in Great Britain. However, companies had complained about huge additional costs and had urged the government to abandon their plans, which initially would have meant only a mirroring of EU regulations. The head of the British Manufacturers Association, Make UK, that's Stephen Phipson, called the waiver of the change pragmatic and sensible. Businesses can now choose to use the UKCA badge, which is not recognized in the EU, to sell their products in the UK from the end of 24. The move marks another U-turn in UK trade and economic policy since Brexit. The government recently admitted that by the end of the year it intended to abolish significantly fewer laws from the EU period than announced. Great Britain left the EU at the end of January 2020 and has not been a member of the EU internal market or the customs union since January 1st, 2021. And despite a comprehensive trade agreement, there have been problems in bilateral trade since then, due to bureaucratic regulations and in some cases, for the British at least, new tariffs. Businesses are now eagerly awaiting an announcement on how London plans to implement the introduction of customs checks on imports, which have been postponed several times. It is expected that the costs of fresh food from the EU, but also of other products, could then rise again. As the newspaper Independent reported, the British government has asked the EU states individually about their position on import checks and thus violated the rules of the Brexit trade agreement. The EU Commission alone is responsible for such negotiations, and the Brussels authorities then advised the 27 member states to ignore the British government, which is probably a wise decision in many cases, but unfortunately you cannot do that all the time. Yeah, but that was British exceptionalism again. Yeah, why stick to the rules? No, but this is just another example, not only to ignore the EU there and ignore the rules of the negotiations there and ignore the TCA there, but also where are those promised benefits? I mean, the markings on the glasses, we know about that, and the UKCA was sold as a big benefit as well. Yeah, where is it? The companies in the UK don't want it, especially those that want to export still. And most of the companies, I don't mean every SME, but most of the companies still are relying on exporting to the EU market. They have left their biggest trading partner and they made it harder for themselves. And one Brexit benefit after another is falling apart. The same with the regulations and the laws. Thousands of EU laws and EU regulations were to be abandoned. Yeah, what's it now? 600. And because also the industry said that would be crazy to do that. So where are the Brexit benefits? And the member states in the EU definitely know what to do, and they know that they leave the negotiations to the EU because they are quite fond of their diplomats. They don't even want them to be involved in those negotiations because ask Michel Barnier how those are. And there was one thing I mentioned in between. Brexit has not completely happened yet. You have not seen all the consequences because, as I said, the UK has postponed import checks several times and over again. Those import checks should be there since December 31st in 2020. And where are they? they are still not there. So the impact of those checks to properly implement Brexit in the UK, you haven't even seen them. And they will come whenever the British are doing what is meant to happen for their market. They're not checking. And that's quite a joke after such a long time. And so Brexit is a gift that keeps on giving, and Brexit is not over for a long time, you can believe that. And we will talk about new consequences in the future when transition periods run out that are still running and they finally do what they're supposed to do and do import checks. If you're interested in more Brexit or other UK politics, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.